people in Iceland, we're so connected to nature. We've had to experience really bad eruptions. It's so powerful, and it's built in every Icelandic person to respect that. And I would think that since I was really small, I would always have this respect for nature and for volcanoes. You also think, like, as soon as you see this gigantic force of nature, you're kind of like, oh, this is how everything was made. Like, you realize that every single mountain in Iceland and all of this land was made out of these huge eruptions. And so you kind of think, like, will there ever be an eruption bigger than this, and will it be even more powerful, and could it be more dangerous for us? And you kind of get this, like, feeling of really being really small because you have no power over nature.
I started to follow this volcano before it actually became a volcano. All of a sudden, there was a huge quake in Grindavík, the town of Grindavík. But it was so big that we felt it even downtown Reykjavik, and it was like a huge shock. The ground was just shaking all the time, and it was unsettling for many people, of course. Scientists realized very quickly that because this earth here, Reykjanes Peninsula, is so young and it's so different from other aspects of Iceland, it means that a small quake can signify that there is something huge going on underneath. So they realized, of course, that there was a volcano coming up.
We are between two tectonic plates, and the pressure there is always changing. It's increasing pressure, and at one point in March we had this big earthquake of 5.7 magnitude that released this pressure, and basically we are splitting, and it opened up a crack down to the mantle that produced this eruption.
It seems like we have just a gateway up to the mantle, like a naval cord or something. If this eruption is going to last for a while, then it's just, it stays open like that. But it's not coming from some chamber, like it doesn't have any evolved composition, which we see if magma has been sitting for a while and changing its composition. This is just like raw material, basically.
Most of our time has been spent to find out how to take care of the people and visitors coming here for many thousands every day. For our little town is a big job.
There are a lot of surprises by nature, and as an Icelander you simply have to live with it. Nature has the final say.
When we started hiking, this was really hard, and this was very different than it's now. It took us like 1.5 or 2 hours, and we went the completely wrong way. We went up to this mountain, and this is Fagradalsfjall over there, which is basically the volcanic system where everything is coming out of. And we hiked over there, and we saw this puny, like very small mountain. And this small mountain was like, I haven't never seen anything like this before. But we were like numb. And we just felt this heat coming from the lava, and it was just like 2 meters away from us. And then we saw that people were going very close to the crater. And we were like, wow, this is incredible to see. And we just, of course, started rolling. And we were like, we didn't really know what was gonna happen at all. It was very frightening, embracing, and incredible at the same time. I think I've seen like 4 or 5 volcanoes, but I've never been so close. The closer you get to it, you just feel like this power, the heat, the like how volatile it is and everything. It's absolutely incredible in my mind, to be honest. The next time we came here, what was like, we started to see like how much it changed and how rapidly it was changing. We realized, of course, that the lava, the ground we were standing on, we were basically the last people standing on this ground. It would be lava after that, and no human being would stand there ever again. It's so alive. That's the most odd thing about it. I thought it was just a crater and it would erupt, and perhaps bigger or smaller, whatever. but it's so versatile, and all of a sudden we had like these 8 different craters blowing up at the same time. We literally felt like this was not a volcano, but more like an old beast or something that was still alive. We almost had feelings about it, about like the first crater. We felt like there was almost like something that we nourished from the beginning somehow, like a child or something. And I've mentioned this often before. It was like odd to see it even go out. It was like a bit of sadness.
So I've always loved flying and loved flying abroad when I was a kid. So I actually decided when I was 5 what I was gonna do when I grew up, and I told my dad. And I told him, Dad, I know what I'm gonna be when I grow up. And I said I'm gonna be a stewardess. And my dad said, really? Why not a pilot? I just remember standing in the living room, 5 years old, having this epiphany. Oh, women can fly? So that's when I decided I was going to be a pilot. And then later I started flying airplanes when I was 20, but got the opportunity to visit the Coast Guard and just sat in one of the helicopters. It didn't move at all, but sat in one of the helicopters and I was like, yeah, I'm going to fly this. This is great. So I haven't flown a plane since, and I started flying helicopters then in 2007. I love flying there, and it's amazing to be in this position, to be able to watch it grow and develop on almost a daily basis. And it is, you just feel so privileged and so lucky that this eruption is actually accessible, but not a danger to people, which is really, really important to us. And then you have this immense feeling of pride of your country when you show other people from different places around the world this amazing thing. Especially when you're standing there and you can hear the rumbling, feel the heat, and see the lava grow. The growing lava, it sounds like bottles crashing into each other. Most people, they've seen it on the live stream, but when they get here, it's so different, because you don't get how big and immense and exactly this feeling of awe when you're standing there, like when you're watching it on TV. So they've kind of prepared themselves, but it's nothing like that. Mostly people, they can't believe that they're there. So it's mostly people repeating, oh my God, I can't believe, is this really real in front of me? It is a strange feeling standing there. And you get it's nice because you get reminded every day how privileged you are actually to see this every day. If I ever get bored, I will definitely have to remind myself this is not gonna last forever, and just you're watching, Earth being created basically. So yeah, I'll keep reminding myself of that so I don't forget.
I probably have the world record of seeing molten lava. I've seen it over 1,000 times during my show because I make it my own. We educate people about what lava is, the eruptions, different kinds of lava, different kinds of situations that can happen in eruptions. And I've heard from many visitors that have come to the lava show that they travel around Iceland with a little bit different kind of a view. You heard of the palace here, Norna House, which is here. So you see how fast it goes down? So this is which is here. It was molten just seconds ago. During COVID, we tried to do a few experiments because we had time. And I was talking about the rhyolite, the other type of lava. We actually collected the rhyolite from Katla eruption, so different kind of lava. We made experiments melting it, tried to cool it fast, and we were actually able to make obsidian. So this is obsidian, man-made obsidian. Eruptions have affected the Icelandic people extremely much. For example, in 1783 we had Laki or Lakagígar erupting, and 1/4 of the people died. There's numbers, if we would not have that eruption, we would probably be around 1 million people in Iceland, because imagine 1/4 of the people died and a lot of people fled to America, to Canada. Katla is a really active volcano. It has erupted around 20 times since the settlement of Iceland, and that's when the Vikings came here, late 800. So on average, every 50 years in general. But Katla last erupted 103 years ago, in 1918. So it's actually 53 years overdue in its longest pause in history. So whenever we have earthquakes, a bigger than 3 and around the Katla caldera, of course, everybody gets a little bit, okay, Katla may go. My great-grandfather, who was a farmer a little bit east of Vík, he was collecting sheep in the roots of the volcano when it started to erupt 103 years ago, 1918. So he had to escape for his life. That is maybe the trigger of my fascination with volcanoes. That's probably why I've almost seen every single eruption since I could walk in Iceland. You probably remember we had an eruption here in Iceland in 2010 called Eyjafjallajökull. Katla is so much bigger than Eyjafjallajökull. And that eruption in 2010 closed all airports in Europe. Katla can actually close all airports in Europe, America, and it can lower the world temperature a few degrees if we have a big eruption. So many people have asked me, so why do you live in the town of Vík? Because you have a volcano here just above you, and it can erupt and come with its glacier floods that is much more water content than Amazon and Kansai combined. Why do you live here if we can have a glacier flood coming here after an eruption? And you could say that to so many other people around the world. For example, in California with earthquakes, the Ring of Fire in Philippines, Indonesia, you live where you live and you just accept the nature can speak if she wants to. With Katla, we have this glacier eruption, so we have to be really quick if something happens. And the emergency plan for Vík, if Katla starts erupting, everyone in the area will get a text message, and you will have 15 to 30 minutes to evacuate. And the text message will tell you to go straight to the meeting point, which is actually the church of the town. Many people here in Vík and around this area, especially the old people, like not old people, the elderly people, they, I think, have this fearful respect of Katla. They are afraid it would erupt, but I think they're also like, it better erupt before I die, because they want to experience it. I think in general, Icelanders are really excited with volcanoes, but you have to have the respect of Mother Earth, and we know what it can do. I think this is a little bit part of our core here in Iceland, volcanoes. We are the ones that stayed and still live here.
I think a pretty big part of this of the part in Katla is that it's really connected to folktales, Icelandic folktales, and the volcano, which is a big part of Icelandic culture. We had COVID kind of happening at the same time that we were shooting, so that kind of helped us getting into this surreal world that we were trying to build. We were so alone. In Vík, there was no tourists because people weren't allowed to fly into Iceland at the time. You realize that you're not used to being a tourist in your own country. You sometimes take it for granted. And then you go and you see this crazy mountains and waterfalls, and you're just like, oh, I get it. I get why people want to come here. So that was a really good experience for me to kind of sit down a bit and getting to know myself in my own country, but then again also kind of letting it go when it finished and going into new things and being inspired with this experience in the back of my head. When they started shooting, they would put they would say rik, what is it called? Dust, yeah. And they would spray dust over, so every rain is kind of like dusty. You can kind of feel it just by watching it. And then after every single day when you came home, you would have black lines in your eyes and in your nose and stuff like that. It would be really dirty. But I think that's kind of what happens when there is an eruption going on. And we watched a movie, like a documentary about the Eyjafjallajökull, and that was exactly what happened. Everything would just fill up with ash, and then your eyes and your nose and everything, it would just be covered in ash and with this tiny dust, which is so bad for your lungs and stuff. So I think we kind of captured that atmosphere of dustiness. When you're shooting a scene, it might take hours and hours, and then you have to do the next scene, which is continued the next day, and then you would have to take picture of the pattern of the ash, how it's falling on your face, and do it exactly the same the next day, So it was a lot of ash, a lot of fun. It was a tough experience emotionally because this was my first acting job ever. I've never done any acting before, so it was kind of like you were putting yourself out there every day, every single hour of the day. And I felt that with the last day of shooting, it was kind of like I felt that I was writing a book and I just written the last page, and now it was just time to close it and maybe read it again some other time. But it's funny, and now I feel like I've done that and I want to experience something new right now. We have this kind of a freedom that you don't have to bind yourself to a genre or to any fashion trend that comes and goes, We just have this kind of a freedom of expressing ourselves through art, and I think a part of it is just how the land goes and how our culture has developed into kind of this free thought of do whatever you want to do, but do it at your risk and do it respectfully. In a lot of lyrics that Icelandic musicians do, they use nature and they use the language kind of to, because it's really hard to write a song in Icelandic that's not going to be a cringe when you're talking about love. So you really want to hide it in some kind of a costume of telling something with something else, you know, which can be nature, which can be a lot of things. But I did it a lot in my last album with nature. This interview will maybe inspire me to do a volcanic song.
ISAR is an organization that was founded in 1928. First team actually established in the Westman Islands, my hometown, in 1918. And today we have 91 teams that are active in Iceland, and it's all around the country. And we have the capabilities to deal with everything between the bottom of the ocean to the top of the mountain. So it's a highly organized organization. We have a really good rescue school. We train our people from the young age of 18 to 20, and then they become the first level rescuers. We also have a youth program from the age of 14 to 18, so that we actually get them young and start indoctrinating the young minds with the SAR mentality.
We have the people that want to volunteer their services and take pride in being a part of society in that regard. Search and rescue in Iceland is similar to the National Guard in the US. Probably the main difference is that we don't get paid. We have to buy all our equipment ourselves. But I think there is a similar motivation. Just being on call, on standby, and being able to contribute when needed.
I like to have my normal job, my family, and then something happens, I jump into this. There's a lot of adventure in this, and many different sides of life, which you visit for a while and then you leave it where it is.
We are very proud of our organization, proud of this name here, ISAR.
We are all equal. We share each other's burden. We do different stuff. Like me, I'm a farmer. He's also an electrician. You can be a nurse, you can be a policeman, you can be a priest, or whatever. But the interest in this business is what brings us together. From hundreds of years, we have, like in other countries, we have had to help each other. In the old days, no one was really counting, keeping balance of who did what. Did I help my neighbor for 10 hours and then he owed me 10 hours? And it's a little bit the same in this business. No one is counting. And we don't like to have people lost. We want everyone home. And we want rest until we can can bring people back.
I think this is a lifelong agreement that you put in work in the rescue team for the rest of your life, and it's always giving back to you. It's always rewarding you.
This volcano hadn't stopped surprising us, because it kind of like got into the moment that everything was felt like dying out. When I first saw the volcano, I thought like, this is not going to last for a week. This is way little. It's way too weak, the stream from it, meaning that we had no expectation. But when this monster there came up, we were like, I remember when I saw it the first time, it was literally like seeing a volcano for the first time again. I was telling our viewers like, yeah, and there is the volcano, there is nothing happening, and we probably need to go closer to see any action. I have no idea what's happening here. And then all of a sudden, like, the volcano like just bursted out, like, bah! And me and Art, we just stood there, we just were like numb, we just watched it, we were like, what the hell is this? Like, what happened to the mountain? Look at that. I felt the earth to show my son that the country that he really lives in. So we actually hiked here in the snow and we saw the volcano. And I just, I felt like that was the most important moment. Just in the night, sitting there eating like dinner with my kid, and he's just seeing this. That was like the first volcano then erupting. It was quite big actually, and it was just it was magical in so many ways just to see it and just to see him realizing like why this is called the land of ice and fire and everything. It's not a cliche when you actually stand and watch it like this. He was very impressed, but he really hated hiking back. I mean, this is not an easy hike. It wasn't even an easy hike then. If you want to be like, go into the metaphor, I mean, this is very much like Icelanders are. I mean, it's like we burst and are like beautiful in this red hot maniac situation, and then kind of just fizzle out in the end and just keep on going until the next volcano comes up. It was quite like the festival in the beginning, and it was fun. People were just grilling food on the lava and doing irresponsible stuff. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, I think Icelanders are allowed to be irresponsible around volcanoes, right? Like I always said, I mean, I think the last person that died in a volcanic accident was in 1973 in the Westman Island. But Icelanders do not die in volcanoes. We die on the way to the volcano, on the way back.
They call me the volcano guy. I started photographing volcanoes when I was, 17. When I was working as a press photographer when Krafla started. And it kind of started there. Then I went to Sweden. I learned photography. I did advertising. I did studio and advertising photography for a long time until I switched over to stock photography, which I've been doing since 1990. I never done anything else. And it kind of became a passion for me. It makes me excited. I just love it. I've done about 20, 30 books, mostly about volcanoes, glaciers. And my first book was a flower decoration book. 1980. I've been spending a lot of time on the glaciers. glacier photography and kind of adventure winter photography up in the highlands. I do all kinds of things that interest me. I've done open heart surgeries, medical pictures, and everything in between. It's a challenge. I love the challenge. We get on average a volcanic eruption every 4 years or 5 years. And it's very well covered by the media and the television. And on those media, the lead scientists are explaining what's happening. So very soon, all Icelanders are very familiar with the science behind it and how things work. And they're very well educated. We have volcanoes everywhere. There are about 5, 6 volcanoes ready to erupt any minute now. This volcano which we have now is a tourist eruption. Some of the others are not fun, not at all. I mean, they're quite dangerous. Eyjafjallajökull was kind of a big thing. Then Holuhraun, 2014, was magnificent. That was crazy. And then we have this tiny little thing which is going on right now, but not far away. You can see it from the house. And that's a small thing. It's a fraction of Holuhraun, but it's beautiful and it's close and it's easy to get to. I'm always prepared and I know things are going to happen. It was famous here when one of the lead scientists said this is not going to happen, so there's no eruption going on, and it actually was happening almost behind him. So you have to do your homework. You have to prepare, you have to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to take a helicopter? Are you going to fly with an airplane? Are you going to drive up there? Are you going to walk? What are you going to do? And what is the most important thing to do first, and then what you do second? That depends on the situation, actually, when it happens. I get on the first plane, which is important to get the first minutes, and then you have to gradually add on as the volcano progresses. That's just straight into the crater. That's a dead crater beside it, and then it's alive. I lost 2 drones flying into the crater, so I switched over to the Coast Guard helicopter. The Coast Guard helicopter is not going to fall into the crater like my drones. At Holuhraun 2014, we were using the first generation of drones. That one melted, by the way, but we got it back. The camera is melted. I have a passion for photography. I have a passion for creating stuff, and I just have to create. And preferably only once. I can't repeat myself. And I hate repeating other people's work. So I try to be as creative and as I can. You can't put it into words, it's a feeling, it's just things you do. You don't create by deciding I'm going to do this and this and this and this. You just go there and it happens. It happens in here. And sometimes it happens without thinking. I have a vision and I have to go and I take a picture and I want to create. It doesn't happen often. I have a lot of ideas what I'm after, but not exactly how it's going to be. It happens just, it's a feeling. Yeah, I think it's the way my brain is wired. It's a thermal selfie to show how cool I am compared to the volcano. Sometimes it's so cold, your fingers are falling off. And it's difficult to concentrate and to do things if you're so cold that you kind of, the fingers are not working anymore. But you have to do it. I do it anyway. And sometimes it takes a long time to recover after a good shoot. In the general area of Reykjanes is going to erupt, I'm told, for the next 200-300 years, on and off. I hope it's out in the sea, because I need different pictures. I have a database with about 150,000 pictures. I have about 2 or 3 million originals on back files. It's quite a lot of terabytes. It's going to be my legacy, quite a lot of pictures.
I think it's kind of interesting to think about, in my lifetime of 26 years, I've experienced 2 major volcanic eruptions. And I don't think there's a whole lot of people outside of Iceland that could say that. Back in 2010, we had Eyjafjallajökull erupt, and that affected us in a really profound way because our air quality was kind of bad and we really couldn't see anything. We would go to Perlan, where you have a 360-degree view of the city, but you can only see as far as maybe 50, 60 feet. And there would be ash on top of every rooftop, every street where you went. So that was kind of cool to experience. And I feel like this one is very different for a number of reasons. One, we don't have the ash. And second, you can actually walk up to it. So I think Iceland does a really good job of touristifying everything. We take anything and everything we can turn into a tourist attraction. And it's just kind of so fitting that we were able to actually take an active volcano that's actively erupting and make it a tourist attraction. It's kind of interesting to see how people are responding to seeing it for the first time. I remember my Facebook feed flooding with people posting their pictures and videos from their hike up to the volcano. People have been talking about it like you're actually there to see God. But yeah, no, it was actually pretty cool to get to see it. And I think if you can go and walk up to it and say, this is ours, this is what happens in Iceland, we can actually be a part of it by seeing it this close and getting to share it with our friends. We always talk about how Iceland is the land of fire and ice. We literally have fire in our flag. The red represents the fire, and we've never actually seen it so up close. So I guess that's pretty cool. It kind of lights a little patriotic spark in you when you get to see something that's literally the reason why Iceland became an island because of a series of volcanoes. So yeah, I guess it does kind of spark a little pride in the Icelandic people to get to see one of the very big elements of the country in the manner that it is now, a volcanic eruption.
The films that I exclusively use are usually referred to as Polaroid peel-apart films. One part is the actual picture where you can see the picture like the Polaroid pictures that people are used to. The other part is just black. And the very few people that still use these films, they throw away the black part. But the black part is actually what I use. And by putting it into a small chemical process, I get a see-through negative. I started doing photography in 2005, and by that time, of course, there were
already good digital cameras, but even so, I started with 35mm films, moved on to 120 films. Then I moved to London to study artistic photography, and that's where I was introduced to the Holgaroid, which is basically a Holga plastic camera with a Polaroid back that got me into the whole Polaroid thing. So I'm very much interested in the manual process, which I did with the 120 films and then kind of transferred that over to the Polaroid. It's not just about having a nice capture at the end of the day. For me, it is about the whole experience, and I try to insert that into my art. I'm not trying to document just what you see. I'm not trying to show you, oh, look how beautiful Iceland is. I'm more trying to convey to you, the viewer, the feeling that I get being out here. We're here in the moment, aren't we? I think we'll have to look back at this in a few years and see kind of how it ages, and I think my reasons will be more clear to me afterwards. I just feel like this is something that I have to do right now. All of my art, my visual art, my music, the lyrics that I write, it's all inspired by Icelandic nature. How can you get closer to that source than an actual erupting volcano? It's the primal power, isn't it? It's that rawness that everything stems from. So I think in a way my obsession with actually capturing a live volcano was to finally get to that root, I guess. So I think after this I can rest more easy with my art and just photograph flowers and birds or something. I don't know. Here I got a Polaroid peel apart that I just shot. This is kind of like Christmas because I never know what I'm gonna get. There we go. That's my friend Birkir standing in front of the volcano. And now you can see this is the actual print. This is what I used though. This is the negative. And I'll end up using the actual negative rather than the print. I have this little art project that I call Leaving Art. And what I do is I take prints that I've done and I go to places that have some connection to the print, sometimes the actual place where I shot the picture, and I leave a print there. And I write on the back of the print, like something like, if you find this print, it's yours, but I ask people to contact me, maybe send me a picture. For me, it's a way to kind of take my art full circle, to kind of, in a way, give back to the places that I've taken a little bit from. Many of these places that I photograph are abandoned farms. And in a way, I feel like I'm giving the farm a new life, a new purpose, by kind of giving something back.
Night shift is beginning, and they were just receiving marching orders. Before they leave for the shift, they will go and feast on some hot dogs. When people in Iceland set out to do something, they're usually fairly quick about it, and because we have short channels and everybody knows everybody, we can do many things very, very fast. My feeling is that if this was like a regular job if I was attending this post here and getting paid for it. My feeling is that I wouldn't be as interested in it because I want to be here as a volunteer, not as a paid employee.
I can't tell you that you can't go, but I can give you a very good reason why you shouldn't go, because really we're getting people that go through that cloud of sulfur dioxide, which is pretty bad for you, and it can also contain a little bit of carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. We've had people throwing up and being completely exhausted. You can go and you can be okay, but you can also go and not be okay. We've had a constant stream of tourists, and almost every day we've had some accidents where we've had severe injuries like broken bones, sprained ankles, head trauma from people falling in steep hills, heart attacks, hypothermia, a lot of problems associated with the ruggedness of the mountain that the eruption is on, and then we've had a lot of exposure to the elements that can wreak havoc on people people underestimating their own capabilities and underestimating the harshness of the environment. So these are usually the things that get you in trouble in Iceland.
Take it here.
Is this 3? Okay. So is it this one that was bleeding most?
Yeah.
Yes. This one was okay.
Yeah, that one's not bad. This one's got a tiny little cut over here.
Do you live in Iceland somewhere?
No, we're visiting from New York.
Okay. When did you guys arrive?
We could go. We could go today actually.
Fantastic.
It's actually fun. Like, we have been here for now almost since it started. I have been here maybe once every week.
Just the experience. And to keep you in practice for first aid.
Yeah.
So
I'm providing you the practice.
But then it's also always fun to come up here because the volcano is always different every single time we come here. One more?
Yeah.
Well, he's all wrapped up good now.
Yeah. It's like a new man now.
We're not going to tell you that you can't do something, but we give you the reasons why you shouldn't. And most often people just are positive, and we kind of like that human interaction and that connection we get with people. Because really we don't want to boss people around. That's not our job. But we really like it if people appreciate that we're actually thinking of their well-being instead of trying to not allowing them to see the volcano. I think that everybody should have his own volcano in his backyard, and being able to visit it, that's one of the perks of being Icelandic.
We get so mad, like we see some tourists going on the cooled lava, and we would be like, how could anyone get the idea to do this? Because we are so hardwired to be like, you cannot do this, and you cannot do this, and you cannot do this. Like every time I would drive where there are old lava, and the first thought that comes in my mind, that is something that my mom told me repeatedly, was if you ever go into this place, you have to be careful because you could get into a gjóta, which is like a crack, and you will die. So that's the first thing that will pop into my mind, because we're so hardwired. Like our parents are always giving us these information that we then continue to give to our kids, and we've been doing for like years. We think of it as a part of us.
I've always been a nerd, always loved science and nature. And then I went to high school, and there it was the first class of geology, and I was like, oh, wait a second, here all my interests combined. So it was just from that point on I knew that I was going to end up in geology. I'm a PhD student or a PhD candidate, so I'm working within a research group. My priority is, of course, the PhD research, but then, you can't just let that eruption just fly by, so we have to participate also, and learning a lot about how the lava is behaving, which is then helps me understanding my data a little bit better, because I'm dealing with lava that is thousands of years old. So like seeing something going on in action is going to help me read the environment of how it was several thousand years ago. It's very unique, this eruption, because it's so peaceful. It's just, you could be literally up against it and there's nothing. I mean, it's always dangerous, but it's still very peaceful. It's like the lowest explosivity of an eruption you can think of, really. Being able to monitor this eruption so close by and seeing all this lava being in place, how it's behaving. The lava is filling up several valleys now, so the lava, it travels quite a distance. People are seeing glowing lava for the first time, and all these forces, even though they're quite low forces compared to volcanic activity. This is just this classic tourist eruption. It's quite convenient that it came up there, because it has to fill in one valley first, and then the next, and then the next, and then it goes out away from those valleys. I think people find it really fascinating and interesting. Then you start to explain everything behind it, and then they lose the thread. They're like, oh, okay, well, I think it's super interesting, but I could never study it, because it's so much more than just like looking at lava and rocks and, taking pictures. A lot of calculations and Excel sheets and a lot of heavy work. It's been fun being around the eruption, because a lot of people have been recognizing me from the Instagram. So people are like, hey, Helga. I'm like, who said that? And then people are like, hey, we're following you, or people wanting like selfies. And then I'm like, what? Do you want a selfie with me? That's kind of cute.
I was there 57 times. It's a very amazing place. It's something unusual to have eruption of the volcano just, like almost in your neighborhood, and be witness of eruption of lava rivers, lava lakes, lava fountains. It's something like out of this world. I feel like I'm addicted to that place, and you can feel there how small and powerless we are with relation in nature elements. We cannot stop lava, and it's so powerful phenomenon that I just want to be there like as often as is possible. Like every day off, I'm trying to be there and take more photos and document it. Of this volcano. On the beginning, my wife told me, so, okay, Adam, what if the volcano will erupt for years? Are you gonna go there every day? I said, no, of course not. And I don't know how many times I will go there yet, but probably hundreds if it will erupt for many years. It's third eruption in my life, so it was Eyjafjallajökull in 2010. Actually, we had two eruptions in that year, in 2010. One was in April. It was that big one which affected flights in Europe. And another one was in March. It's the same year, 2010. It was the same volcano, but lava found a different way out and didn't produce ash. But it was a 5 hours hike one way, approximately, so I've been there only 3 times. I came to Iceland from Poland in year 2006, so was like 15 years ago. And my plan was to stay here only 1 year. I operated the day tours from Reykjavik to a lot of destinations. It's north, south coast, Golden Circle, some highland trips like Landmannalaugar and Kjolur, also customized tours, and of course tours to the volcano. I started to work in tourism around 7-8 years ago. We have all types of landscapes here, just half an hour away from Reykjavik. And you can do climbing, caving, kayaking, fishing, like a lot of outdoor activities. And I had no opportunity to do this in the place where I lived in Poland. I lived in the middle of the country. It was a huge plain. So it was something new for me. This is my office, you know. That's the best office I can dream of. I was working in a printing house and we had lessons of Icelandic language there. That was my first job, actually second. The first one was in KFC. I worked there only for 1.5 months, and then when my wife came to Iceland, we found work in a printing house. We wanted to work together, and it was interesting to print books with maps of Iceland, so I could study everyday maps of Iceland and find some attractions to see. I saw all the episodes of this volcano, and I want to continue it and all the way to the end of this eruption. But it can last for 100 years even, so my life it's not maybe it will be not enough to document it. But I will try, yes.
Even though the COVID period has been difficult economically, we see that this living laboratorium we have here in Iceland, on how the earth became an earth, or how the land became a land, and how new land is being made, etc., etc., it inspires people from all over the world.
Nature is showing us something like this, like the power. It brings to me the feeling of reverence, like really being humble.
I think we need something more magical, perhaps, something more distant, or something. I don't know. It's like I even feel it by myself. I felt the day that COVID hit us, I just stopped reading this brutal, social, realistic novel. I was like, why not just read Dracula or something? Some silliness like that. I didn't have any passion to read anything about society or a comment about it or whatever. I just felt like I wanted some magic or fantasy. And I think in some ways this is exactly that. But then again, the volcano could stop tomorrow. And then what?